Another Brick fan here with a look at a collectible minifigure series. This is Harry Potter. This is set 71022, was released in August 2018, has a total of 22 minifigures, packaged in blind bags that cost about $4 each. An entire set would have cost you about $88 if you can guess correctly. This one was kind of tough to complete because Percival Graves, who is figure number 22 way back there in the back, was a rare, or sometimes people call it a chase figure, since there was only one per box of 60. I think overall this is a really good set. Most of the students have the short legs, and some of them have the medium-sized legs, which are new for 2018. They're one stud taller than the short legs and one stud shorter than the standard minifigure legs. So that was introduced in 2018 with these Harry Potter sets. All of them I think look really good. Some of my favorites include Neville Longbottom with that Mandrake figure. I think looks really good. I like the dual molded hair piece. It's got the earmuffs included with it. And that expression on his face is just a classic for Neville. Professor Trelawney there with that really nice teacup with the good flower printing around it, and then the detailing on her dress, and especially that hair piece with a really cool printed headband she's wearing, I think is really great. I really do like the little Niffler figure, probably pretty hard to see in this grouping, but I will take a look at that when we look at the figure closer. But that little Niffler is a pretty great little figure to get. And then two of the figures are actually two different people. The Alistair Moody, or Professor Moody figure in this also is Barty Crouch Jr. So the other side of his face is a different face for Barty Crouch, and then there's a brown hairpiece instead of this blonde one that he's got on right now. Also, the chase figure, Percival Graves, is actually Gellert Grindelwaid. So this figure, like Moody, comes with a completely different face on the back and a white hairpiece, so that we have essentially 24 characters in this set. Let's go ahead and take a close look at the minifigures and their accessories. First up, we have Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, and as you can see, they're both in these black robes, and they're wearing their Gryffindor sweaters underneath that. Of course, the Gryffindor colored ties. Harry comes with Hedwig, which you see this nice small Hedwig piece here. Hermione, of course, comes with her cat, Crookshanks, and here he is, just a regular Lego cat. So very nice printing on both of these figures. You have the black robes with the red trim here, and then of course the Gryffindor logo here. You notice Hermione's is buttoned up top and Harry's got his more open, so you can see the gray sweater showing through better on Harry. I think they did a good job of lining these lines up here. And as you see, because Hermione's is buttoned up, you see more of the red trim that goes down her legs, which are also done very nicely with the printing. Harry's got his windswept hair here, so you can sort of see the Scar logo. They each have small grins on their faces, and then no side printing on either one. Notice these do have the mid legs, so they are not quite the full minifigure legs, but they are one stud higher than the short minifigure legs. Looking at Harry, you can see the hood for the robes back here. Turning it around, you see that he has no alternate expression. Hermione, likewise, does not have an alternate expression, but the same back printing here. Starting off with two very solid figures for this collectible minifigure series. Next up, we have Ron Weasley and Draco Malfoy. Ron doesn't look all that sharp. His tie is tied wrong, his robes are kind of open, and his shirt looks pretty wrinkled, so that's pretty typical of Ron. But again, he's wearing the black robes over his other Gryffindor uniform, and it's kind of the same print as you saw with Harry, although his is a little more open, so there's just a slight bit of the Gryffindor logo here underneath the fold of the robe, so I think that's pretty cleverly printed. Of course, his signature red hair, a small grin on his face, or maybe just a straight expression. Draco comes with this broom in green, in the dark green color, and this snitch piece. Here's a closer look at the snitch piece, which has a little post on the bottom, allowing the minifigures to hold on to it. Probably a little bit out of scale, but I think it looks really nice. And nice to get a mold specific to that. And Ron, of course, comes with Scabbers. And this is, I think, the little older version of Scabbers, because you can see that bald spot on his head. So not just a rat figure, but it actually has that little extra printing to show the bald spot that Wormtail has, or Peter Pettigrew. So that's a nice touch. As you can see, Draco is in his Quidditch robes. Interestingly, this is an older version of Ron with the 3/4 legs. But Draco has the short legs here in white. The good Slytherin robes or Quidditch uniform here. And his very yellow hair. And as you can see, part of the Quidditch uniform is this cape, done in the green, and it's the softer material. With a little hood here in the back and some other lines, and then the hood, kind of like the back of Harry and Hermione that we just saw. Let's move on to our next two figures. Next up, we have Luna Lovegood and Neville Longbottom. Luna has a copy of the Quibbler here. A very nice print done on this 2x3 tile in this light blue, and then the cover of the Quibbler magazine, which I think turned out very nicely. Neville has this small mandrake here that comes with him. It also comes with a nougat colored pot or cauldron piece that the little mandrake fits inside. Luna's wearing this pink jacket you see here. She has a purple handbag. She has these light blue, these blue colored legs, but then she's also wearing this skirt with a bunch of patterns on it, which is a cloth piece that goes around, which I think turned out quite nicely. Neville has the hairpiece here that is dual molded with the brown hair and then the tan colored earmuffs that he's wearing. He's also in this herbology jumpsuit kind of piece. I thought it was all, pants and a top, so I think that probably should have been the same color for the legs as well as the torso, but he does end up with the black legs, and he does have the 3/4 legs as well as Luna. Moving around, you see Luna has a very long blonde hair in the back here. And then there's some back printing here for Neville. You can see the seam here on the little skirt piece she has. Luna has this alternate face with these freaky glasses that she's wearing. And Neville does not have an alternate expression. I really like the level of detail with this skirt piece for Luna, and then the Quibbler the Quibbler piece that she's carrying as well. Let's move on to our next two minifigures. Next up, we have Cho Chang and Dean Thomas. Cho Chang comes with an owl as well. Cho Chang's owl is a brown owl, as opposed to the white snow owl of Hedwig. I think it's a good print. Lots of detail there on the face of the owl and that nice printing on his chest. Dean Thomas is carrying the Gryffindor banner here. It's only printed on one side, but that is a print, not a sticker, which is much appreciated. Like Luna Lovegood, Cho Chang is wearing a skirt piece, although hers is just the plain gray, which pretty well matches the sweater she's wearing. Of course, she has the Ravenclaw colors. If you look under her hair here, they did not include the Ravenclaw crest there on her sweater, which is different than what you've seen on the Gryffindor ones, where they normally have the crest. So Dean Thomas here has this kind of tight weave hair piece. He's got his robes on and a scarf, of course, in the Gryffindor colors, since he's attending and probably calling the Quidditch match. Moving around the figures, you see the back of that. The back of Cho Chang just has a little bit of texturing for that sweater. No alternate expression for her. And no alternate for Dean Thomas either. Let's go ahead and move on to our next two minifigures. Next up, we have Lord Voldemort. here in this dark green. And he's got the robe piece on the bottom as opposed to legs. And then we have Dobby with his, of course, unique headpiece. Dobby is carrying a book, which has a nice print on the front. This is Tom Riddle's diary, presumably. And inside, of course, is a printed tile with a sock. So this is the end scene from Chambers of Secrets, where he was given the book that has the sock in it and thus getting freed. Voldemort comes with Nagini the snake. So we get this very long snake piece for Nagini. Just a little bit of black printing on Voldemort's robes, but again, the color matching is really good. On the top and bottom, we have Dobby wearing his kind of his kind of potato sack clothing here. I like the yellow eyes here, and then just the little slits for his nose, which I think is pretty accurate for Lord Voldemort. And then the backs of Lord Voldemort has no printing whatsoever, but it is nice and smooth back here with the rounded corners. And Dobby continues on with, it looks like dual molded short legs. So you see the tan here and then the flesh color, or it may just be printed on there. And then the back of his potato sack or whatever it is that he's wearing. So let's move on to our next two minifigures. Next up we have Professor Trelawney, the divination teacher, and Cedric Diggory in his Tri-Wizard Cup uniform. Professor Trelawney comes with this very nice teacup, which has this good printing around the saucer there of the teacup. So a slightly different teacup mold. Cedric Diggory comes with the Tri-Wizard Cup, which you see says Tri-Wiz Art on here. So Tri-Wizard on the cup itself. A little bit of printing along the top edge you can see there. And then of course it says Tri-Wizard in the front. I really like all of the detailing here on Professor Trelawney's dress. Once again, she's wearing this kind of dress and or robe sloped piece on the bottom. I also really appreciate the dual molding here and the use of this headband for Professor Trelawney. I think that looks really good. Cedric, of course, is in his Hufflepuff yellow and black. The good smiling face there. As we move around the figures, you see that there is some side printing with this pinstriping on the side of Cedric Diggory. And then he's got his name with a star here on the back printed in red. No alternate expression for Professor Trelawney or Cedric Diggory in this case. So some good figures, and obviously we are pulling from just about every year in the Hogwarts story. Let's move on to our next figures. Here we have Professor Flitwick and Mad Eye Moody. Professor Flitwick has this megaphone piece here in silver. Mad Eye uses this cane or staff for his wand. And then he has this nice little flask piece where he presumably was drinking all the polyjuice potion from. You see he's got the nice magical eye, and then his leg is done in silver here to indicate the enchanted leg that he's wearing. Professor Flitwick looks good with his short hair. He's got a bow tie and a tuxedo that he's wearing. So maybe this was from the Yule Ball time frame. Good printing on the front of Mad Eye Moody too. I think it pretty well captures his robes and his look. Professor Flitwick has this tails here in the back that's done with a cloth piece. And then just a plain back. A little bit of detailing on the back of Mad Eye here. And then you see his legs are almost triple molded with 3 different colors there. No alternate expression for Professor Flitwick, but Mad Eye Moody has this other expression here. And he also comes with a second hairpiece. So this is Barty Crouch Jr., who was masquerading as Mad-Eye Moody during the Triwizard Cup. He does have two completely different faces to indicate that it's two different characters. The next two characters are the last two that are based on the Harry Potter movies. Here we have Harry Potter and Professor Dumbledore. Harry is in his invisibility cloak, which is done in this nice shiny material. And then on the inside, it's all done with these stars and other patterns with a dark red. Dumbledore is done very nicely here in this light blue, and he has his pensieve with him as well, where he stores his memories. Let's go ahead and get this cloak off of Harry so you can see the printing of Harry in his pajamas. So now we get a better look at Harry in his white and blue striped pajamas. He's got the printing around his feet here to show that he's barefoot. Professor Dumbledore, I think, looks really good in this nice light blue color. You see his beard, and it's tied down here on the bottom. There's a little gold tassel here on the hat that he's wearing, which I think all looks very good. You look on the side, you see that the face does have a little bit of sideburns there, and that beard piece that fits on the front, and then the long hair in the back. No alternate expression for Harry. And just to show you here, that tassel that I was talking about earlier is right here in gold, and that long hair that he has there. So no alternate expressions for either one of these characters. So those first 16 characters that we've seen in this series of 22 all came from the Harry Potter movies. There are a total of 22, as I mentioned, and those last 6 come from the Fantastic Beasts movie. So let's take a look at those figures. First up from the Fantastic Beasts series, we have Newt Scamander, who is the writer, of course, of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them book that Harry studies during his time at Hogwarts. Newt Scamander comes with this little Niffler mold, which looks really good. A cute little guy, if you will. He also comes with this briefcase, which of course is magically enchanted to store all of his magical creatures. I assume it's a portal into the area where his magical creatures are kept, and then it can also be done Muggle safe. Tina Goldstein, of course, is a member of the U.S. Ministry of Magic, as it were, and she has this hot dog or sausage piece, which I've seen several times, but it looks good here in this kind of dark brownish red color, and then the bun in that nougat color. Newt also has his little tree-like buddy, or his little plant creature, or the name escapes me right now, but that's in his long blue coat here. He's got the nougat colored vest on, and then the brown pants here. Tina has this nice dual molded blue cap with the brown hair. She's also wearing an overcoat, and then it looks like a gray jacket underneath that. They both have fairly smiling expressions on their faces here. Both have dual molded legs with the brown on the bottom of Newt and black on the bottom of Tina. Some good printing on the back just to define that jackets that they're wearing. And then Tina does have an alternate expression, but Newt does not. So here's a more frowning face for Tina. Let's take a look at our next two. Next up we have Jacob Kowalski and Queenie Goldstein, who is Tina's sister. Jacob was just a muggle that kind of got caught up, and I believe he's a baker, so he also has a briefcase, just the same mold as is used with Newt, but as you see inside of his briefcase, he has some pastries in there, a cinnamon roll and a donut, it looks like. Queenie comes with this big roll piece as well. Of course, Jacob's in his nice suit because he was on his way to try and get a loan from the bank, so a nice gray suit with the blue vest and red tie. Queenie is wearing a blue jacket, it looks like, over a pink shirt, and then a slightly darker skirt, and then you see some black printing on her legs here to indicate some shoes that she's wearing. Kind of an interesting nougat color for her hair as well. No printing on the back of Jacob, but then you do see the printing here on the back of Queenie, and you also notice that her legs are in fact dual molded. No alternate expression for Jacob or Queenie. Let's take a look at our last two minifigures. Last up we have Clarence Barbone, who of course is a wizard who never was trained and has suppressed his powers, so he makes him very dangerous. He has a flyer that he's handing out. This is a flyer saying that wizards live among us. So he was part of that group that was against wizards, or claiming that wizards were a danger or threat to people. This is next to him is Percival Graves, who is the Chief Auror for the U.S. Ministry of Magic, or Magical Council. He has this nice black suit on, and also I think an overcoat that has some blue lining in it. You see Percival's got this very detailed jacket here with a lot of stitching and stuff around the corners and kind of a brown vest underneath that. I do like this hairpiece here on Percival with the gray and black. I think it looks very good, very distinguished. No printing on the back of Credence here, but there is some printing on the back of the jacket for Percival Graves. Now, Percival Graves has an alternate face, but this alternate face you can see has a white mustache, and he does come with a second hairpiece because he was also Gellert Grindelwald. In fact, Gellert Grindelwald was impersonating Percival Graves through the movie. This is our second character that is actually two different people from the movies. Now that we've seen all of the minifigures, let's go back and I'll give you my final thoughts on this collectible minifigure series. As I mentioned while we were looking at the minifigures, there's some really great ones in here. I highlighted a few at the beginning, but some others that are worth noting is Luna Lovegood with that really nice skirt piece. It was cool to get that snitch piece that came with Draco Malfoy. Nagini, the snake that comes with Voldemort, is really nice. And then, of course, that sock that's inside the diary that Dobby is carrying is also really cool to get. It was also nice to get a couple of characters that we don't see very often, like Chang and Dean Thomas. And of course, Cedric Diggory looks really good here as well. It was really nice to get those 6 figures from the Fantastic Beasts movie in here as well, and I think all of those were quite well done. I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts on this collectible minifigure series. I'm going to get started on my next video. And until then, happy building. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I've left a link to some of my other Harry Potter reviews up here on the screen.